Look at me. I'm an Aryan king. 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 Look at me.
This podcast is based around the history and experiences of the infamous Shane Bugbee, recollected and retold by Shane Bugbee himself. Who is Shane? Well, you're about to find out. I'm your host, Naneral, and this is Speak of the Devil.
And that's from Radio Free Satan, right?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's a long time ago, 25 years ago? 2002.
2002, 27. No, sorry, 17 years ago. I can't do math.
17 years ago. Wow. That's so long ago. I don't remember him saying, I am an Aryan king. Doug, I don't remember Doug saying, I am an Aryan king. I don't remember why that would even be spoken. You know, I have no idea.
I think that he was trying to defend, like, he was saying, he was saying something about Jewish people, and someone asked him, I don't know if it was you or someone else asked if he was a Jew, and he goes, look at me, I'm an Aryan king.
Oh, wow.
And just, to me, it's silly. I don't find it offensive at all. I know the guy was joking, he has tongue-in-cheek saying that, but at the same time, who the fuck says they're an Aryan king? And so it's sort of funny because those pictures show that he was a one-eyed bastard back then too. I don't think the SS would have taken him in.
Yeah, that's a comment based in insecurity, though, isn't it? When you're dealing
Absolutely.
But wow, I just don't remember that comment. But the whole radio show was a fun time. I mean, it was cool to do the first. That was the first. Does anyone realize that was the first live 24-hour streaming broadcast on the internet? That's what makes that show so special to me, is that I was a first. It was like something really cool. I struggled. Boy, if you saw the setup that I had to put together to broadcast, a huge computer, big tape decks. It took up an 8-foot table.
Oh my gosh.
To put a podcast on the air, it took up an 8-foot table.
And here you are, walking around your home with a phone as I sit here with 2 laptops, 3 beverages, and a whole bunch of medical tape rolled up from previous times I taped a microphone to my neck.
Tape the mic to your neck is an occult secret you just got. Anyone listening, you just got an occult secret for nothing. So there's probably a Patreon page up, and you should be giving something for that, because that's high knowledge. If you
Donate over $10, I might send you a roll of tape if you want one. You can tape your own mic to your neck. You can have Naneral's magic kit entry level.
So what was your take on the 24-hour radio show when you heard it? I'd love to hear. Told me that it's a viral smash in the world of Satanism.
Yes.
And people. And so I don't even know what's being said, really. I don't. But what was your take on it? What's the take? What's going on with this?
So the biggest take about it isn't so much of the content in it, so much as the fact that Doug will not own up to it or apologize or anything as a public figure. I think that it just tied in. It caught a lot of attention from a lot of pages like Trident Antifa, as well as others who like to uncover who like to uncover alt-right activity within esoteric circles. When TST had appointed Marc Randazza to do their lawsuit regarding losing his check mark on his Twitter or whatever the fuck that was, it made a lot of people feel like, why would, of all the pro bono lawyers, why is he sticking to this one? I'm sure there's another pro bono lawyer who will do his dirty work for him. And it started to point toward him being alt-right or possibly being an alt-right sympathizer. And so people started to collect a lot of information and proof that he is in bed with the alt-right. And the video surfaced, well, the audio surfaced, and that particular part was picked apart. And I admit I picked it apart pretty brutally too, to the point of making a song of that quote, because who says that? Come on, buddy. And there were other discussions regarding alt-right TST, and there is a hashtag going around on Twitter called alt-right TST that basically connects any information so you can just look for it and find it all. And there's a lot of, well, I guess Kevin would call them minions. There's a lot of minions of TST who vehemently defend Doug regarding this. And at the most, Doug will say something about how, oh, these people are just bitter, or these people just have too much time on their hands, or something like that. Yeah, he has enough time to argue, but not to say, you know, I think what a lot of these people who have brought attention to these past activities, all they want, I think deep down inside, is for him to just say, look, I said this and I'm sorry, not sorry. I think they just want him to take responsibility for it. I don't think they care if he regrets it or not.
Well, they probably do. I would think they would care if he regrets it, but it's like the dominance and submission thing. He won't submit, and he's stuck in this world of this fantasy world of dominance and submission.
Fantasy indeed. Ladies, give up on this guy. He'll never tell you you're right. Doug, ladies like it when you say you're wrong. If you want some more incels, if you want any more advice on how to have game, you can contact us at
speakofthedevilpod@gmail.com.
Yeah, I'm going to be taking classes once a week from Nans here about how to have some game in my life. I'm already doing some exercises on my neck to lose one or two of my chins. But back to that Might Is Right Radio Free Satan 24-hour podcast. I remember Doug emailing me about that lawyer. I think I contacted him then, and we had some exchange. Oh, I had threatened him. I'm like, I think I'm going to put the Might Is Right artwork up for sale. Perhaps you want to buy it. And
this is the artwork he did for the book.
Right. Yeah. And his thing is, I only did artwork for a publisher. Shane's a publisher, and I did artwork for Might Is Right. I don't have. That is his comment somewhere out there in the world, but he didn't have anything to do with Might Is Right. He just did the artwork for it.
Not to mention, you've said that he gave you stacks of his artwork and was like, "Hey, look at my artwork."
Oh yeah. When I met him, he did that. But before I forget, it's that when he wrote me, he said, if you do that, all they're going to do is tie you to this lawyer and to the alt-right. You're just going to be thrown to the wolves, basically. So it doesn't matter to me if you present the artwork. You're just going to be thrown to the wolves with me. And I was like, I don't think so, dude. I think I'd already done my podcast that you'd heard at the time. Maybe not. I had no concern if I was going to be thrown to the wolves. My whole career is that. It's like, when have I shown concern? I've been run out of towns multiple times. I've been, when have I shown concern for that shit? So fuck you, and I had started the plan to sell that artwork publicly, and I met with Chris, and I don't know how to say his name properly, but it's like Picciolini from Life After Hate. He was a white supremacist guy I had known from Chicago. When I did the Milwaukee Metal Fest, I took money from anyone to take advertising, and he was one of them that I took advertising money from. So we were old friends, or old acquaintances, I should say. It's not like I palled around with white supremacists, but I am in the underground, so you sort of pal around, or you are acquainted with the underground, and that's bikers and white supremacists, and I also run with Black Panthers and White Panthers and everything in between.
But I think that crossing paths is completely different than getting recruited by and then recruiting others.
Oh, right. I see myself as a journalist, and so did the state's attorney of Illinois that put John Wayne Gacy to death. When I asked him, what do you see me as, dude? I said, well, how do you see me? He goes, oh, you're a journalist. You just don't get paid like a journalist. You're just like the people on TV that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just you don't get paid that. And I was like, oh, great. But here's the thing that Doug said in the email that troubled me. It was like, he's like, yeah, it might be no big deal, dude. You can't threaten me with that. And I'm misquoting, but this is the essence of the conversation. I don't have the letter in front of me. But he's like, the kids don't care about history. They care about right now. They don't care about the history. And I was like, the kids don't care about history? And I could swear I'm hanging around the kids because I'm like 25 in my head all the time. I don't realize I'm a young guy. The only thing that snapped me out of it was a Steve Buscemi meme that's like, hey, kids, I'm just like you. And he's an old man with a baseball cap on. I'm like, oh, my God, is that me? Because I feel like that's me. I feel like I'm like, hey, kids, I'm a kid like you. I don't say that. I just have this mind like whatever. I'm an artist. I don't know if fuck maturing. OK, whatever.
Tits and cake.
But when he said that, like, the kids don't care about history, I was very perplexed, and I had been researching that ever since. Like, do the kids care about history? And then, of course, Holland, comes, approaches, and I see this controversy with this podcast, this 24-hour Might Is Right. I just scratched the surface, and I'm like, wow, the kids do care about history, actually. They care about it a little too much, without context. When I say too much, I make a joke, but it's like pre-internet and post-internet. We have to, I think, as a online society, have to reckon with there's a difference in communication,
We have to go back and apologize for everything in 2019, whereas pre-internet, we did not think of any consequences. There were no consequences.
There wasn't any. And, oh, gosh, that ties into the fashion thing. I hope we'll talk about again in the next podcast. Because it talks about we're so isolated. And it's true. It was a white-run world. There wasn't too much that wasn't white on TV. There wasn't too much that wasn't white on the radio. And so you're not really hearing clapbacks from any minorities or people in the margins. How could you feel it? How could you hear, hey, you're hurting my feelings? There's no one saying that. So for me, I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize the other side of the story. I ran away and lived with the black family. It's not like I'm that isolated at some point in my life, but it's just not the same. You get an immediate education online now. And if you're willing to listen, you get the education, or you get an immediate fight if you're not listening. Does that make any sense?
It really does. And I feel like I want to think that even our listeners are getting educated listening to this. Listening to this podcast, you're getting a dose of satanic history. It's still a very young religion, and I think that a lot of people do not fully understand it, or they only know the parts that they want to know because so much of it has been erased.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm so happy to do this. I think it's important. I put my whole life into art and a philosophy that I believe is very art-driven and art-based, which is Satanism. It's about creation. Maybe it's not art, but it's definitely creation, scientific creation, artistic creation, and it seems like the older I get, the older the philosophy gets. I don't like to call it a religion. I think religion's where philosophy goes to die. So maybe it is becoming a religion.
It's getting killed for sure with recent activities.
It's too bad. It's a philosophy of individual will, and it's weird to see it turn into groupthink and all that. That's for certain.
When we talked about the Hail Satan film, you mentioned about you think that Jex Blackmore may have been one of the callers to you guys' radio show.
Not the 24-hour radio show, but the radio jihad show.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
We did another 24-hour radio show, but we didn't stand there and broadcast stream for 24 hours. I think we took a break after 15 hours, and we edited things down. But I had called, like, the Secret Service, and we'd called some other people harassing. Mm-hmm. I like that podcast. I can't wait to send it to you and have you pick it apart. But I think she called then and basically said something like, quit trying to make Doug gay. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I later figured out it meant that Doug must have shown some signs of sexual excitement when he spoke my name. And this person was also sexually interested in Doug.
Oh.
And so she sensed that and figured I was turning Doug gay because Doug showed some sexual excitement when talking about me, which doesn't mean he's homosexual, but I mean, you could show a sexual excitement when you talk about a friend and your partner can get questioning, like, hey, what the fuck are you doing talking, you know? And a lot of the work I do as an artist is exciting, so that's not uncommon for me to experience people. You know, we get excited working and it comes out. And I think that's what happened there when I think about it. And I know like a lot of my friends like, oh gosh, we did this really cool thing in Boston called the Dark Arts. I did it with William Morrison. I debated Doug for a bit on stage from afar. I did it through Skype. Mm-hmm. Stephen Labus spoke at it. It was really neat. I forget why I'm talking about that now.
Gay Doug.
Oh yeah, my buddy's Dave Archer. Dave Archer's one of my mentors, as I was Doug's mentor. Dave Archer was one of my mentors, and Dave he paints with a 1,000,000-volt Tesla coil, and he was a friend of Anton LaVey's. And Dave is an actual wizard. He's a fucking magician, top tier. And so he also spoke at this thing. I got him a gig, you know, and he drove out to Harvard. I didn't drive. I stayed at Dave's house and watched the dog because I just didn't want to do it personally. And they came back, and he's a queen. He was a street hustler in San Francisco. If anyone knows a person is gay, I would bet Dave Archer knows. And he came back saying that Doug was gay and gay for me. And I take that as a compliment. I mean,
If he was, then okay.
Well, you know what? It's not okay if you don't tell me.
Okay.
It's okay if you like hit on me and tell me. That's good.
It's hard for an Aryan king to be honest to the person he's gay for.
I don't know why.
Because he's the king. All his minions got to look up to him.
But we shared so much. What's a little couple more? What is a couple more inches? Oh.
He wouldn't be able to seduce all those girls into his cult.
Why is that? Are girls anti bisexuality or something like that?
No, I don't think so. I think that when you get seduced by someone because maybe you have low self-esteem, maybe you have a crush on them or something like that, you feel very jealous when you know that he or her are tapping something else.
Oh, okay. I love that.
I have a theory that everyone who's had a piece of Doug D secretly hates each other. Even if they share a motel room at a film festival or hang out together in pictures, it's keep your enemies closer. We're still humans.
Oh yeah.
There's going to be a massive catfight when this whole thing crumbles. These girls are all going to fight. They're all going to yell, or they're all just going to get mad at Doug, and maybe they'll be like, you know what, fuck you. I'm going to take my boyfriend and all my friends, and I'm leaving your stupid club.
Well, I want to make it clear I'm not making fun of anyone's sexuality. Like
neither am I.
I'm just explaining the facts as they are, how they bear out, and I do that for history's sake, so people can analyze this in a future date and go, oh, we see this relationship here, and we see how it was perverse in this way, and you know.
I think that he didn't expect you to walk away when he was saying, oh, you don't want to get into this and that, when it was involving alt-right and Marc Randazza and, you know, the risks involved. I think that he seriously thought that you were going to use his reverse psychology, like succumb to his reverse psychology and stick around. And I think he was butthurt.
I think that happened earlier when I didn't, like, they owe me money still. And I think, and he uses that, like, Shane only cares about the money. The only reason he's angry at me is because of money. He likes to divert the idea that, no, I'm actually angry that I fucking was something that I really do hold near and dear, which is my relationship with Anton LaVey. And
he uses the term near and dear often on TV, by the way.
Does he?
Yes.
Does he?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I used to use that a lot too. So maybe he got that from me too, but he knows that the lavey thing is very near and dear to my heart. And that, well, I just didn't agree with where they were going. And I sacrificed a profit, and Kevin has a lot of money, so I could have been, you know, like living in Salem making dough, helping them out. I could have been the Lucian Greaves. I could have done all that, and I walked away because it was something that was, fuck, and forget lavey. It had to do with the class struggle that I'm so involved in. I just couldn't betray all the ignorant masses, let's say, the juggalos, the metalheads, the people I spoke of in another show where I'm like, another show we recorded, where I'm like, I wouldn't hang out with them and talk philosophy. That would be painful, but I'd hang out with them at a barbecue. I'd be cool with these people because they're cool people. Yeah. A lot of them seem like really cool people, just lost or desperate, or they want to participate and cool. It's better than sitting around being a nihilist. The worst fucking thing you could be is a nihilist, I think. And I know we're going to touch on that in a future episode that we record. But I think you want to say something that's worse than a person that joins a Nazi party, it would be someone that's decided to use the title of nihilist. That's painful. I just couldn't abide by that kind of shit, and in a corporate Ivy League way. When I started to reckon that, oh, I'm a useful idiot, oh, this is what's happening here, I definitely wasn't going to go along with it. You know, there's this will I have, or this fight back. You know, people that have a lot of money can really do damage to you, and so
I'm anticipating the damage that Kevin's going to do to Doug.
Well, the damage he's doing to me, or maybe behind the scenes, even it's when I decided to leave that stuff, I understood all that stuff could happen. You know, that's how important it was for me to just have my integrity. Because, like I said, my life is my artwork, and I don't want a flaw in that sculpture. When I die, I want people to look at it and go, "Wow, that guy did a solid work." That's probably the biggest reason I walk away from situations, or I use my will to fight back, push back.
Do you think that Doug thinks he's in over his head now? Do you think this is more than he bargained for, the responsibilities he has now?
I wonder if that's true. Like, I wonder when he says he's had enough public appearances and he's having a problem with things. I think when we talk about him being a sociopath, I can no longer follow if he's telling the truth or a lie.
I think no one was paying attention to him that day, and so he decided to say something.
Yeah, right, exactly. I just don't know. I don't know. I only know who I know in the foundation of the person. I don't know how to follow his words anymore. I could only tell by the look in his eye. Dun, 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 dun. It's a song. Ministry song, Stigmata. I'd have to feel it and be in the room with him to be able to tell if he was telling the truth or not. And he's a really good liar. He's an excellent liar. People walk away from the satanic temple a lot of times. Well, I'm just not into the group. I mean, Doug's cool because he's very polite and proper. He's not going to say, "Hey, fuck you, get out of here. I'll kick you down the fucking stairs on your way out," as I might. As I used to. He's going to say, "Oh, I'm sorry it worked out this way. Let's stay in touch. We'll work together in the future." You know, he's just a shit-talking corporate shill.
I don't trust people like that who, like, they're smiling at you, but they've got a knife behind their back.
Yeah, right. Waiting to put it in yours.
They're wearing a mask.
Yeah. And so you ask if it's too much for him, whether he would ever recognize that?
Probably not. It'll be too late when he realizes it.
Yeah, I wonder, the thing I wonder is, does he see a counselor? Or does he see a psychiatrist?
No, he has that grief action thing, which makes me think he hates the idea of therapy, or he doesn't believe in it.
Right, and so for me, I don't trust an occultist that is not seeing a therapist or a counselor or a psychiatrist, because we legitimately play with madness. We play with the extremes of the mind. And modern magic is wielded by the tech industry, code writers, and psychiatrists. Those are the actual modern magicians. Artists are that, but we're doing it in an unwieldy way. And we step in the muck all the time, and drama, and that's why we need these counselors to help put us back in line and go, hey, because magic is ultimately about deep focus, the most massive focus you could have. This unbridled being that you are being brought into a focus. And so counseling helps you refocus when you play with madness. And I think that's it's helped me a lot. And I wouldn't trust Doug if he wasn't. I would consider, I guess to answer your question, I would think he's lying about everything if he's not seeing a counselor or being a proper magician, modern proper magician. Because ultimately then he's just lighting a candle or incense to get his mojo back in line, and I don't think that stuff works as well as a good psychiatrist.
It sounds like he's a completely different person than the person you knew in 2002.
Oh yeah, but power corrupts and greed corrupts, and then you have ego, and you have who's willing to admit they've been a useful idiot. Not too many people.
Do you think that if TST ever falls through, that he would try again to do something similar or go on with his life and do something else?
I think he'll use it as a springboard to make movies or write books. Ooh, here's the scariest thing. Here's something really interesting. I remember Doug and I would talk about, he was working with some people at MIT, and they were working on this cure-all that will cure all viruses, a drug. And he wanted to go, this was like one of these trick questions, I believe, as an afterthought. But he's like, we need to go to a third world country to test it out on people because we can't test it here. The FDA won't let us, all this stuff. So we need to test it in a third world. Would you help me?
Because they're less precious people than...
Right. But that's what I think that's the trick question. It's like one of these trick questions a CIA person will give you. How many races of people do we have? And the answer is one race, the human race. If you answer anything beyond that, you show your bias. And so asked me if I would help him.
That sounds scary.
Yeah, and I remember saying, yeah, I would help you do anything, I think. I just need to understand it more. What are you trying to do? And that doesn't mean I would help him dose a person, but I would help them figure out a way to get that tested. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would think about the problem and come up with a solution. But I think when he said that to me, he was looking to see, he was looking for something to alleviate his guilt as far as using me as a useful idiot. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, like validating if it's fucked up or not and reading you.
If Shane's willing to go help me with this, then I might as well fuck him over. Something like that.
I see that. I see that too.
And in my life, as things are playing out right now, there's a lot of weird things happening that are toying with my emotions, let's say. And I have like evidence. It's not like a paranoia where I don't have evidence. It's like I've shown my counselors this and they're like, dude, that's severely fucked up. Like people are actually trying to hurt you in the mind. And, I think that comes out of the Satanic Temple. It seems to be pointed that way. And that's not just coming from my assumptions. It's other people looking at it going, huh. I mean, and I hope we can get into this with Alan sometime. He's looked at a couple sites I've sent him, and he said that looks like it could be tied in. So there's some deep, dark ties to weird fringe groups, and this shit goes down a wormhole that is pretty dark and scary, actually. And it's about, like, I believe, looking for power, looking for, like, overthrow of certain institutions or looking for power. I know that sounds crazy, but whatever.
I think that a lot of it also, there's a high chance, I think, that a percentage of Doug's efforts is to impress you and get your attention.
Oh, yeah. He's competing. It's something, though, the student does. I think some students do. They look to kill the master. I don't mean he's trying to literally kill me, but, like, beat the master, let's say.
Here's an example. You gave me these wafers that had, they were unholy wafers from something from LA, a show in October. You used this image that's like a silhouette of Baphomet or a demon, and on your website I noticed that you had some art with the same figure on it, and I'm assuming that it's your artwork. Anyway, the reason I mention it is the way that this devil's horns sit. It's kind of wavy looking, and he's kind of tall and looks like he's wearing a cloak or like a mountainish form. And
right.
The actor who is being Lucian Greaves with those horns on, as well as when Doug wore those same horns to do the pink mass, makes the same silhouette as that devil, and it feels oddly specific.
Yeah, well, I think that's the corporate way of doing things on every level.
Taking an underground artist and then capitalizing on the image.
Yeah, and so, but all that's going to happen here is they're going to go listen to how crazy Shane sounds, or you sound, because we're equating these things. They'll try to rip that apart, but if people were to look into the history of how underground artists are actually treated and how they are ripped off by corporate entities all the time, this is actually quite common. It's the same with the origin history of popular underground groups, popular now, but like biker groups, and I'm not mentioning their names, but biker groups and all that shit, like the origin history is usually the people who create it have some sort of goodwill, and I use the word good lightly, but some sort of
code.
Yeah, something that's genuine there, and they get co-opted, and a lot of times they get murdered off, and so it's not the stuff that I'm talking about is actually quite typical within these moments. So when I'm talking about being harassed, it sounds crazy to the working stiff or the person that's a participant or a consumer, but it doesn't sound crazy to me, not because I'm going through it, but because I've studied underground history for 30 plus years. I have been schooled by Black Panthers and White Panthers. I've had tea with Allen Ginsberg. I get what I'm talking about. Like when you're fucking with the system and you're trying to destroy a system, and you get hit from all ends. It's just the way it is. Lavey, some said Lavey was part of at some point got co-opted by the CIA and stuff like that. And I was asked if I believe that. And I can see that. I can see him being questioned at least by him, and I could see him helping because he was very law and order, right-wing law and order. He did not like criminals. He was very, very much like that.
Well, my first impression of TST was that they were a collective of educated people, that they were a collective of, scholarly people, and that they were being lawful neutrals or lawful goods at the best. And it was quite a surprise, the more people affiliated with TST I met, how very different from Lucian and his image they were. They were not the same kind of people, and even if they tried to be, they were definitely not cut from the same cloth. And hearing people just go on and on that, he went to Harvard, like interrupting conversations with me to tell me that, he went to Harvard. And like someone's proud mom who's proud of some kid down the street in your small town while you're visiting, like that kind of talk. And it was painfully obvious that these people saying this are not educated, not necessarily academically educated. Let me clarify that. Just people who were not smart were saying this. People who were easily duped, or it reminded me of people in North Korea who just repeated right away when Kim Jong-un became the leader that, he's a 4-star general, But he was just given that title, and this song was passed around North Korea about it. That was the propaganda music. So then people, the countrymen all know, he's a 4-star general because it said so. And it felt that way. And so then it made me feel like, okay, guys, take a step back and be skeptical about this. And so the more I've observed it, the more of, unfortunately, no offense anyone, the lowest common denominator was the majority. And it seemed like, nope, this is not for me. This is not for me. I cannot fit in with people like this because they'll never let me speak. But I also can't fit in with what seems to be the ideal image that's on television either, because I felt like I wasn't being heard, and it wasn't in a getting eaten by wolves sort of way. It just sort of felt like there was an ideal image that TST had in mind, and so they would just ignore anything that didn't fit that image. For better or worse, it's business for them. And another red flag to me is, okay, I donated money to them when I first joined. I actually donated money. They never thanked me, and that was a surprise to me. I've donated money to all kinds of organizations that I joined. I've donated money toward things to pay more than the membership fee. I've donated money toward symphonies, fundraisers for schools, all these different things that you always are profusely thanked for because you are donating. And I didn't give $20. I gave them well more than $20. I gave them more than $100, and I was never thanked for it. And I used the same moniker that I was using to talk on their Twitter, and I couldn't help but feel a little hurt that it seemed like I was getting ignored. And if you're really from that life of Harvard and the elite, you know how to treat your donors. And it made...
Indeed.
And I can't help but feel like most of these people who, you know, they become a member and then they like get a shirt 2 years later because they finally had some spare scratch to get a shirt or whatever, and they're just buying merch. I'm pretty sure none of those people have ever donated any money. I'm pretty sure that they are all bottom feeders and they donated maybe $2, $5 because that's all they could give. And it was sort of a surprise because it showed me that the culture they were trying to impose as this cultured, articulate people was complete bullshit. That was enough for me to know not to trust them.
That's a good observation. That's a real good observation. It's not something most people are going to get, though.
No.
Most people aren't even going to understand when you're talking about it, the lowest common denominator. Not going to even understand what you're saying here, like with that.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to offend a lot of people saying that too, and that's okay. And to be honest, if someone wants to say, haha, you're just, you know, bitter because no, I'm not. I'm actually not bitter. I don't even regret donating the money. I hope that you take whatever you bought with it and you shove it up your ass because, you know, it's just money. It's just money. It's not my sanity. It's not my happiness. And, you know, they can't control that from me. I sit back and laugh most of the time at these people. It doesn't matter if I gave them money or not. They didn't thank me? Okay, well, fuck you. I'll make a song and make fun of your stupid fucking voice. I'll just move on from this. But I'm gonna watch you because I'm skeptical as fuck. And I want to see this through. I don't like the idea of dangerous thinking controlling so many people. And it does worry me that this is a cult.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's nothing I wanted to be involved in like that. That's why I jumped out. I knew to jump out right away. Same as this other group. I'm sure we'll talk about it later at some point. The other group Doug had got me involved in. But that was a group involved with top tier names. You know, Michael Shermer and other people. But yeah, it's all about control and trying to climb power and using minions, as they call them, to do that. It's I'm not sure how to get through to the people who have joined that group. I could tell you from like being in the Church of Satan, it started to become cult-like, and I think I've said this before, because you're so wrapped up in your identity of it that you'd start defending it every single thing they do. And for me, I started to see that in myself, and that's when I had a fight with Peter and Peggy, and I understood then I could break up with someone and still have love, and I knew that then, and I know that now, as we spoke about my book in an episode. I could break up with the Church of Satan and still love lavey and his philosophy and understand it as a philosophy and not something I have to follow rules, because that wasn't in anything I read. You know, my will is what's important, and me acting on my will is important, not just for myself, but when the individual acts as their best individual, they complement the rest of humanity, and we're able to function on a progressive level. That's why you want to find your power, your inner power, and not climb power, but find your power and your will and use that, because you complement the rest of humanity. and then we were able to progress, evolve. Otherwise, we're stagnant.
I would say anyone who's starting to question this, or even if you're not questioning this, to do exactly that. Find your power. What brings you joy that has nothing to do with TST? Is it something satanic? Then pursue it, but pursue it because it's for you. If those people are your friends, then they will respect what you're doing. If they're shitting all over you, those aren't your friends. Those are fucking snakes. And Doug does not give a fuck about you. Ladies wanting to hit that, you better ask him to wash his dick before sitting on it. The Aryan King also is a throne to sit on it. And with that, I have been Naneral, and I bid you all good night.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe and tune in to our next episode, wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. You can find us at Speak of the Devil Pod on Twitter and contact us at speakofthedevilpod@gmail.com. For Shane's artwork or to support his endeavors, please visit shanebugby.com or find him on Twitter at ShaneBugby. I've been Naneral. Have a good one.
Oh, and shaneisthedevil.com.